Welcome to Forward Obsessed, where we talk to breakthrough business leaders and rising entrepreneurs about their journeys, origin stories, and aha moments. Hello, and welcome to episode 42 of Forward Obsessed. I'm your co-host, David Salinas. Today's incredible guest, Alan Lazowski, founder of LAZ Parking. Alan's story is a wild one of two Holocaust survivors, and their story is made for the movies. He'll take us through the story, as well as the starting of his business after he dropped out of college, where he became a valet parker and eventually went into the garage business. Today, LAZ Parking is the largest privately held parking company in the country. And Alan's story is an incredible one. He takes us through all of his examples, how he leads through love, and how he puts culture into his business. Hope you love this one. We sure did. And thank you for tuning into Forward Obsessed. Make sure you subscribe, like us, share us with your friends and family. And if you know anybody that should be on the show, let us know in the show notes. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Forward Obsessed. I'm David Salinas, your co-host, joined by
Pete Senna.
And today we have an incredible guest with us. We have Alan Lazowski. Alan, your reputation precedes you. We're so excited to be here in the LAZ offices and to have you on the show. I'm blessed to have you as a mentor and a business partner, and I'm glad to share some of your story with our listeners and audience today. How are you doing today?
Awesome, and I'm honored to be with you and Pete today. Thank you for taking the time to be with me.
So tell us just really quick, where are we right now?
You're in the LAZ World headquarters, home office in Hartford, Connecticut.
Nice. And on the 14th floor of one of the most historic buildings here, right? The Gold Building?
That's it, the Gold Building, downtown Hartford.
Yeah, absolutely
The
gorgeous.
city we love.
Yeah, indeed. The city that has it, right?
Hartford has it.
That's the moniker. We'll talk about your love for Hartford in a little bit. Every show that we start with, the story of where entrepreneurship, the kernel of entrepreneurship really comes from. And we search for the creation story of that individual entrepreneur's beginnings. And we'd like to start in your childhood or your family, your folks. And you have a very interesting and dynamic and story about struggle too that you could share with us. So tell the audience a little bit about where Alan Lazowski comes from.
Thank you. People equate me to parking. I often say I'm a rabbi's son that became a valet parker in college and never left. I had the honor of starting LAZ Parking with my childhood best friends from 9 years old and 12 years old. And we grew up in Bloomfield, Connecticut, right outside of Hartford, where my dad was a great spiritual leader, rabbi. And he's been a rabbi and spiritual leader in our community for the last 68 years. And he's an amazing guy. But I think what I equate my entrepreneurship, my never ever give up attitude to is our family story of survival, because both my parents are Holocaust survivors. And to tell you the story briefly, my dad was born in a small village in Poland in 1930. And in 1941, when he was 11 years old and he was the oldest child, he had 3 brothers and a sister, the Nazis came into his village of 2,000 people. Half were Jewish and half were Polish, and they burnt down his house. They torched the town. They killed the rabbi of his town and 35 others and made everyone walk with the shirts on their back to a Jewish ghetto, which was the town called Ghetto, which was 20 kilometers away, and surrounded that town with 4 blocks of barbed wire. And now thousands and thousands of Jews from different villages were living in this slave labor camp working for the Nazis. And my dad and his whole family, 3 brothers and a sister, mother and father, were huddled in one room with very little to eat. And the Nazis would give you certificates if you were a doctor, a nurse, a laborer, somebody that could work for them, they would keep alive. But if they found a young kid or an old person, they would send them to this line to die. So they had selections where they gathered everybody they could find and forced them into a marketplace. Unfortunately, when my dad was in the ghetto for about 6 months, he was still 11 years old, he got caught and he couldn't get back to his family's hiding place, and he got forced into the marketplace where they were having the selection, and he was in the most horrific scene of his life. He was watching Nazis take little babies out of mothers' arms, kill them with bayonets, throw them like footballs, shoot people randomly, yelling and screaming and shoving. And he noticed the pointing left and right, and he saw all these certificate holders going to the line to live with their family and their kids, but all the young kids and old people without these certificates going to the pit to die. And he realized at 11 years old, the only way he was going to live is if he starts asking people with these certificate holders to pretend that he's their son. So he goes to people that he knows from his village. There's thousands of people there from different villages, and he says, will you take me as your son? But they're all afraid of their lives and their kids. It's written on the paper, your children, so it's a real risk. They're saying no. He's getting shoved to the top of the line, and he starts asking people that he never met before, will you take me? Will you take me? No, no, no. Right before he gets to the top of the line, there's a beautiful woman with a nursing certificate with two little girls, her daughters. One is 7 and the other girl is 5. She's never met him before. And she looked at him and she said, if they're going to let me live with my 2 young girls, they'll let me live with 3. Hold my hand. So he holds this woman's hand on one side. The 7 and the 5-year-old girls, her daughters, are on the other side, and they get to the top of the line, and the Nazi starts looking at her papers, and her husband is in the line to live with his paper, and he starts yelling, my wife, my kids, there's confusion. They shove him to the line to live, and she saves his life. He never sees this woman after that again. His mother, 2 brothers, and a sister got killed. Miraculously, he escaped into the woods and found his father and 1 brother and lived in the woods for over 2 years to survive through starvation, disease, 25 degrees below zero in caves, partisan fighting. There were 5,000 people in the ghetto. Only 200 survived by living in the woods. My father, his brother, and his father were 3 out of the 200. He went to Austria to a displaced persons camp after the war, came out like a skeleton. He lives there, and in 1947, 2 years later, he's trying to get into Israel, but it's still under British mandate. But he got lucky enough to get sponsored by a distant relative to come to Brooklyn, New York. So he comes to this great country, 17 years old, no money, 10 jobs, hardly speaks English, starts becoming religious as part of his experience, and starts studying to become a teacher and a rabbi. Brooklyn High School, he graduates high school in a year and a half. Brooklyn College, he goes there for free, because if you have over a B average at the time, you go to college for free. And then he goes to Yeshiva University. Now he's 23 years old, and he's almost a rabbi, and he goes to a wedding of some survivors of his town from Brooklyn, New York, and he's sitting at this wedding table, and there's a beautiful girl at the table telling everybody a story about friends of hers from Hartford, Connecticut, that saved a little boy from our town in a selection line. And he's sitting at this table, and he cries out, I'm that boy. Where are these people? 3 weeks later, he goes to Hartford to meet that nurse that saved his life and ended up marrying my mother, who was the 7-year-old girl, her daughter, in that selection line. Mama Ruth. And so that's why I believe that anything's possible in life. You never, ever give up. And when we have a chance to bring our humanity to the moment and help others, we do it. And we've been fortunate, myself and my partners at LAZ from humble beginnings, to be able to live in that spirit and live with that DNA and those values and build the largest privately held parking company in the United States today.
Such a beautiful story. So I'm really curious. Your father is this prolific rabbi. I've had the pleasure of meeting him, and I've read his book, and he's just one of his books. He's written many. 14. Yeah. Incredible. As a young man, what was the first moment in your life where you got a taste for business or entrepreneurship? And I have to ask, because clearly
the struggles that your family has been through is, more than anybody I think will ever know in their life, right? Most people. What was that first moment where you realized, you know what, I think I might want to explore this thing of business or entrepreneurship? I'm just really curious because you went to UConn, right? I'm also my UConn alumni, so thank you. But tell me more about that. I'm really curious.
Yeah. Well, I think business is about people. You're only as good as the people you have working with you. It's relationships, it's partnerships. So I was lucky to grow up in a home with my dad that was 24/7 around people. People would come to our house all the time. They'd come to our house in happy occasions and sad occasions. My dad would counsel people all the time. And so I saw the spirit of how you treat people and how you get along with community at a very young age. My grandfather, my hero, my mentor, my mother's father, the nurse that saved my father's life, her husband was my business mentor. He came to this country penniless also, moved to Hartford because this wonderful family, the Krzyzewski family, was a distant relative that sponsored them to come here. And he worked in a box factory 90 hours a week and saved up enough money to become the first Jewish entrepreneur to go to a small town near Dartmouth College called Canaan, New Hampshire. And he started a wholesale lumber business up there. So I had that entrepreneurial spirit, besides the fact that I used to shovel driveways and paper routes and jobs when I was 13, 14, 15. I had this mentor that really was a great businessman that really came from nothing and built a business and became the largest employer in this small town in Canaan, New Hampshire. And I would spend every summer of my life as a child growing up around that and seeing him. So I was fortunate to have him as a mentor, and he actually lent me $3,000 to start LAZ Parking.
Wow.
When I was going into my senior year at UConn. I had 6 courses left to finish going into my senior year, and my grandfather lent me $3,000. I had a small valet company with 5 or 6 restaurants and a condominium valet operation, and I paid him back 6 weeks later. And I told my dad, who at that time, rabbi, master's, doctorate, that I'm not going to finish UConn. I'm going to stay with this small valet company.
Classes you never finished?
No, 6 courses, 18 credits. University of Hartford gave me an honorary degree.
So you talked about shoveling driveways, parking cars. I am a big believer that hard work breeds hard lessons. And your grandfather was very much a mentor to you. And what I want to understand is, can you unpack some of the lessons looking back now? And I'm sure there's too many to list, but what are some of those lessons that you learned about life, about business from your grandfather that you still apply to this very day and that you try to bestow upon the many people that you influence in your leadership roles?
My grandfather was an amazing influence and mentor. I have to say, in addition to that, I think we need people to believe in us more than we believe in ourselves sometimes. And there are also mentors along the way in business that give you that shot, that believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And those people are invaluable mentors in your life. And the first restaurant location that we started at was place called Frank's Restaurant in downtown Hartford, the best Italian restaurant ever. It'd been an institution for maybe 40 years in Hartford back in June 15th, 1981. But the owner of that restaurant was an older gentleman named Frank Parcelletti. And I had this idea of starting valet parking in Hartford when it was never done before.
Why? Where did it come from?
It came from my other best friend in California, my childhood best friend from 12 years old, Michael Harth, and my other best friend from 9 years old, Jeff Karp. We all thought as a summer job we'd start a little valet company separately. I named our company Sunset Valet for the 3 of us, and And I started June 15th, 1981. Michael Hart started June 19th, 1981, and Jeff started in Boston. Michael was in San Diego in September of that year. But it was Michael's idea because valet was big in California, or had started already in California, but it was never done in Hartford. So I thought, wow, that's a great idea. That's a great summer job, and I'll try to get a few restaurants. This gentleman, Frank Parcelletti, I'll never forget it. He looked at me and said, I believe in you, kid. I like this idea, and I'll be the first to sign up. And because of him, I was able to convince all the other restaurants downtown to do it because he was the influence.
The domino that falls, right?
Yes. And that was the domino that gave me the confidence, but also the marketing ability to go to the other restaurants and say, you're going to lose out if you don't get on board because everyone's going to do it. And it was Frank Parcelletti that was a mentor in that way. Another mentor, a great person, was a gentleman that was a prolific developer, also a Holocaust survivor, a friend of my dad's named David Chase, wonderful individual who actually owned this gold building. And I was 22 years old at the time. I had been in business for just about a year and a half. And I came to him on the 18th floor of this building, and I said to him, I'd love to do the valet for the Hilton Hotel that you own. And he looked at me, he said, not only are you going to do the valet for the Hilton Hotel, you're going to run my commercial garage operation at the hotel as well. And I said to him, we've never run a commercial garage operation. And he said, you'll figure it out.
So you led with honesty. And I think that's a beautiful lesson that I want to make sure the audience picks up on there, is that it's not about, I always say, I hate when people say fake it till you make it, because I think fakers fail, in my opinion. I think what I'm hearing from you is you led with honesty, you led with that earnest ability, and he gave you an opportunity. And you seized that opportunity.
He did. And after 1 year of operation, we received letters from the Hilton Hotel Corporation. We raised the net income at that garage. By the way, we took over that garage from the number one parking operator in Hartford at the time, which was called Schwartz Parking. They had never lost a location in Hartford. We were the first to take away a location, and we raised the net income by 50% the first year. And
not bad for a college kid.
We didn't do much. I mean, we were honest, hardworking. I was there 24/7, and they were probably getting ripped off, and we were able to capitalize on doing the right thing. And that gave us the entree into getting letters of recommendation to be great hotel operators. And we grew our management company as a result of that. Along the way, we started buying properties in Hartford that we bought for $3 a foot and $10 a foot and $20 a foot. And Hartford in the mid-'80s was one of the hottest cities in the country, with 9 million square feet of office space proposed in downtown Hartford. That land became much more valuable, and it became worth $50 a foot and $100 a foot. And the top land price ever paid in Hartford at the time was $333 a foot.
Wow.
So all of a sudden, my partner at the time, Jeff Karp, and I, who had merged things together, thought we were worth millions and millions of dollars in real estate value besides our parking business, but only to wake up in 89, 90 with a real estate crash. And we had a gentleman that was building the largest building in New England signed a lease with us to build a 1,000-space parking garage. We went and got the mortgage and the land and approvals, and he ended up going bankrupt in the real estate crash. So all of a sudden, all this value that we thought we had, over $20 million of value in our 20s, we woke up, we were $8 million in the hole, signed personally.
Stuck with the bag.
Stuck with the banks. Wow. No way out. Lawyers advising us to go bankrupt. And we didn't do that. We didn't want to do that. It took us 7 years to pay off all our debt, which we paid off. And grew the business tremendously from there.
Why didn't you go bankrupt? That's like so many people would just say,
Throw it in.
easy, hit the easy button.
Give up.
It's this wristband.
Never give up. Never ever give up.
Never ever give up the LAZ way. And we were a fiduciary, and we are a fiduciary for hundreds of millions of dollars for banks, insurance companies, other operations, government operations that we operate in. Our reputation, needs to be impeccable. And so,
Because your name is literally on all of it.
that's right. So we chose the route which was the right choice, and we grew our business from there to where today, we're managing over $2 billion of annual revenue.
At what point, because in the beginning, it sounds like you were a hustler. You, like me, I shoveled snow, I delivered food, you parked cars. It sounds like in the beginning, it was like just another college hustle, right? Set up valet parking for a couple of restaurants, make some extra cash. At what point did you realize, holy shit, this is a business. This is a real enterprise here that we got our hands on.
I think I'm still trying to figure that out.
Really?
No, but 1 foot forward,
Yeah.
and I think along the way, for the first 2 or 3 years, I was, parking cars at night, selling deals during the day, doing the administrative work, doing whatever it took. My mom was our bookkeeper for 35 years, but for the first 4 years, she worked for free as our bookkeeper.
Oh, wow.
So I had that spirit of family from the very beginning, and all our employees became family. And what I'm most proud of, we have close to 15,000 employees nationwide. And if you ask, the difference between working at LAZ or any other parking company or any company they ever worked for, the first or second word out of their mouth is going to be family. And it's easy to have a family atmosphere when you're in a smaller company in one location, but how do you achieve that when you're in 41 states and 400 cities and 3,600 locations and 1.5 million parking spaces? You achieve it by paying that feeling forward to other leaders. And I think what LAZ has done and the partners of LAZ have done tremendously is paid that forward, paid that culture, that the LAZ way and the LAZ spirit of respect, commitment to people, honesty, integrity, trust, and our mission of creating opportunities for our employees and value for our clients. But creating opportunities for our employees comes first, because if you have people that believe in you, that know that you have their backs, they're going to have your back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've created this amazing culture. I say this all the time, you're only as good as the people you have working with you. And we spend a lot of time and effort. We have something called LAZ University. Every 6 weeks, we have a wonderful graduating class come to the home headquarters. We have 21 regional offices, but they always come to Hartford for their graduation. We have our great leaders, Robert DeBurrow, who is a partner at LAZ, is the dean of LAZ University, and Jim Marzi, another great leader, is our associate dean. And we take it seriously, and we love seeing people succeed.
I was just going to say, it seems like such a daunting task to build or grow passion for parking. What's the magic behind that? How did you figure out how to build passion for parking? Or did you spin it differently?
Yeah, that's a great question. It doesn't really matter that it's parking. It's people. It's people first. And any company if I could give any advice to any company, it would be about being a people first company, being what we call conscious capitalism.
Yep.
Conscious capitalists, which were a member, I happen to be lucky enough to be on the executive committee of Conscious Capitalism and on the board. we believe in elevating humanity through business. So what does that mean? That means taking care of all your stakeholders. Number one, your employees. Number two, the vendors that you work with, your partners. Your vendors are your partners. You guys are involved with digital surgeons. If you have the right partner, you're going to achieve more. They're going to help you. So you have to make sure the deal you cut with your vendors is a good deal. The deal for your employees, you have to be taking care of them. Then you have to be involved with your community. What do you give back to charity? How do you help the community around you? And of course, the environment. And when you believe in all that, when you believe in taking care of all those stakeholders, you're going to be much more profitable.
Yeah.
And that it's sort of in vogue. ESG's in vogue and has been for the last few years, but we've been practicing that for 43 years. Mm-hmm. We've had over 1,000 LAZ employees that are returning citizens, that we go into the prison systems 6 months before people get out of jail, and we help get them a job so that when they come out, they have a job, they have a mentor. Some of those people have become the best LAZ employees.
Yeah.
We've been doing that for years. So believing in people, I think, comes first.
So it's funny that you say that, because something that struck me was that you and your family have been pay it forward people. And I want to just be really clear what I mean when I say that is Frank believed in you and took a chance on you. Frank saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself and believed in you, like you said. And then you paid that forward to your leaders, and then your leaders paid it forward and forward and forward. So what I'm hearing is there's a forced multiplication of believing in people that you've been able to spread throughout those 15,000 plus people that now are able to go and make an impact on their communities because of the thing that you did. So it goes back to Frank, it goes back to your father, the rabbi, and your grandfather. I'm seeing it now, I'm feeling it now. So I appreciate you sharing that.
So I want to highlight, I want to jump into the Second Chance program. You had a leader come out of that. You had a drug dealer that you took a chance on, right? It was Will Cordero.
Yes.
So what's his story?
And Will would love us telling this story.
Yeah.
And he's a great leader. But Will came to one of our great leaders, Jim Marzi, some 25 years ago. And he said to him, Jim, I'm looking to change my life. I'm a drug dealer in Hartford. I'm one of the largest drug dealers. I'm either going to go to jail or get killed, and I need to get out. And I want to change my life. And we believe in that. We believe in second chances. We believe in helping others. We believe in paying it forward. And we said, absolutely. He started on the maintenance crew. He was obvious. He was a great leader. He started part-time. He went to full-time. He became an attendant. He became a supervisor. He became a manager. He became a general manager. On the side, he became a pastor of a church. And he also leads and led our Second Chance program. And talk about paying it forward.
It's the multiplier.
When you could be a force multiplier, that's of goodness and kindness, that's a win.
Yeah. So that's an incredible story. So our audience is, as Pete often says, our audience for this show is either entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs, typically on the younger side that are trying to make things happen. People that couldn't fathom 15,000 employees, 38 states, and the type of growth that you've had.
41, but who's counting?
41. Well, when I met you, it was 38. So it's changing quickly. There's lots of lessons here that I imagine you have in wisdom.
And my favorite part is that they didn't come from Wharton, Harvard, or Stanford Business School. What they came from is the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
That's what I want to unpack, because I think that's near to your heart too.
Yeah. Well, but there's lots of lessons here. One of the lessons is before you got here, we were snooping around the office and asking people about you. And one of the things that someone said is generosity. That you have a yes, Gail said you have a yes button. Everything is yes, 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 yes. As an entrepreneur, I find it very difficult. I do the same thing. I say yes to so much. and I find it difficult to balance the growth of my businesses, the growth of my relationships, my personal relationships. How do you say yes, and how are you so generous and still able to make so much time for you're a great family man, you're a great father, a great son. How do you do that? Like, what is your advice to people to pay it forward? Because some people say you gotta buckle down, you gotta say no a lot in order to focus and build wealth and build value, and then you can start to be generous. But you've been generous for most of your career, from what I've heard. How do you do that? What advice would you give to entrepreneurs or people that want to be entrepreneurs to do so?
Well, the first thing I'd say about the entrepreneurial spirit is you can analyze things ad nauseam, right? At a certain point, you got to jump in the water and just do it. And so I think, it doesn't matter how big the idea is, how big the company is, but being an entrepreneur, to me, is the most exciting thing that anyone can do in their lives.
Why?
Because you get to paint your own picture. You get to live a life and have the freedom to grow something that you believe in. You get to work with others and create jobs and opportunities and pay it forward and help people. And so, I believe deeply in the American dream. I believe that, that we live in the greatest country in the world, and people that make this country great are the entrepreneurs, are the small businesses. And we were not a big business starting out. For many, many, many years, we were considered a very small business. We had as much pride and enthusiasm in that business as we have today. So it's not the size of the business. It's the fact that you're out there making it happen. And I would encourage people to go make it happen and to find mentors, find bankers, find relationships, find family and friends that are going to get behind those ideas and go for it.
It sounds like you're just like the person that took your father's hand in that line. It sounds like you've been taking people's hands throughout your journey. And that's one of the reasons why you've been able to be the successful conscious capitalist that you have, is that to a certain extent, you're taking people's hands and taking them on that journey. Is that a fair assessment of your story?
I'd like to think so. Besides my parking business, I have a family office called LAZ Investments, and I have about 85 different LLCs where I back other entrepreneurs and invest in their dreams and have helped some people along the way, which is extremely gratifying.
I feel bad for your accountants. That's a lot of things to me. No, thank you for sharing that.
Including both your son and daughter are both entrepreneurs. Yeah, your son has a signage business, right?
Yeah, my son has a company called A-Lot Media, which is a digital advertising business, which, by the way, he had a great idea to put digital signs in parking lots and like an out-of-home media garage business, indoor and outdoor. And that's really going well. And, I'm glad to help advise him along the way. And my daughter, Jessie, has a wonderful business called Marlowe Laz, and she's a very globally famous jewelry designer. And she has her own jewelry line, and she sells to about 70. She has her own flagship store in Manhattan, and she also sells worldwide. And so my wife and I are just extremely proud of the creativity and the business entrepreneurship of our children. The creative design part comes definitely from my wife, Marcia.
Were you disappointed that they didn't go into parking?
There's still hope.
I want to talk about taste for a second. So the audience can't see it, but we got the opportunity on our way in to just experience this incredible headquarters and this iconic building. And there's just a level of taste. So I come from a design world. I believe design is not just how it looks. Design is the sort of form, function, and the intersections growth. That's what I believe. It's a big, deep-seated belief. And I see that in the business here. I see that in the design of the offices, the design of your organization, your org chart, the design of your businesses. And it sounds like it's made its way into the design of your children's businesses as well. I'm curious, you credited your wife for from a design perspective, but talk to me about just some of the design principles that are in your family's lives, because I feel like they're resonating in the businesses. You don't become a globally renowned designer without having some strong design principles. So maybe you can unpack that a little bit.
Well, I think we can never forget where we came from. No matter how successful anyone is, you have to treat everyone with respect. And I think being humble in your approach is extremely important. The design of this office is who we are. It's you could see there's concrete floors and painted stripes. My office has a garage door, and I think it's simply elegant, but it's down to earth, and really what speaks to the LAZ way in a lot of ways.
Simply elegant. One would say that that's almost like an oxymoron, but I think therein lies the magic of what you do.
Thank you.
Simply elegant. There's something working. Yeah.
So, which I was going to lead to, which is years ago, recently, as of recent, in the last 10 years, parking would be seen as a boring business. And now boring businesses are in vogue, right? Everybody's talking about, find boring businesses, right? It doesn't have to be AI or, the next Google. Like parking and parking garage management would be considered a boring business. But for you, it's anything but boring, because, and I wanted to dive into this. So our show is about the journey, right? And you've already mentioned some of the pitfalls of your father's upbringing in Poland and your near bankruptcy. You recently had a pretty big pitfall with COVID.
Yeah, global pandemic, right?
Talk to us about that, because that was another moment that put an incredible amount of stress on you.
Yeah. Other than the years of 89, 90, 91, the real estate crash, COVID was the biggest challenge our company had faced. You can imagine that March 11th, 2020, 95% of our business goes away. Evaporates. People are not driving to work. People are not getting in their cars. People are not going to events. People are not going to restaurants. They're not going to hotels.
And they're moving out of cities.
They're moving out of cities. We were faced with having to furlough for the first time in our lives. We never furloughed one employee in our entire lives. We had to furlough 7,800 people.
What's that like for you as a people-first company? Like, what's that feel like?
Even beyond people, I have a bigger question. A family.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I was taught by an entrepreneur is that you shouldn't call your employees family, because you can't lay off your mom, your dad, your uncle, your brother, your cousin. But you can, but in a corporation, sometimes you have to. So like, what was that?
Oh, that was one of the most personally devastating business experiences I've ever had. And I couldn't sleep at night. You can imagine a lot of these families and people that live paycheck to paycheck. They're out of a job. What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll tell you what LAZ did. All the top executives stopped taking pay. We put $1 million personally into an employee relief fund. I went to Washington personally and negotiated with Nancy Pelosi and others to get the extra $600 a week in people's paycheck.
Wow.
And we got that.
I never knew that story.
And then that helped have people make it through. And obviously it helped our entire country. And then we had to focus on our business at hand. Okay, what are we going to do? We're in at that time we had over 3,400 locations. we have lease payments, we have obligations. It was the greatest time to experience people helping people.
What's that like for your mental health? And I have to ask that question because I think you're such a strong person. I can feel the energy. You can't see it if you're not in the room with us right now, but what's that do to you, being the kind of person that you are? Like, what's that feel like? Clearly it's impacting your sleep, but I just understand the inner monologue that is out.
I'll tell you, I'll just share with you the strength that comes from being a son, excuse me, the strength that comes from being a son of Holocaust survivors is you truly believe that anything's possible in life. You never, ever give up. And you got to remember, what we think sometimes are big deals, they're not that big a deal. You know, when you come from parents that lived in the woods for 2 years to survive through starvation and everything else, they give you hope and optimism that you can overcome. So, you know, and so I have that in my DNA. I also, my partners and I had experienced downturn before in the late 80s, early 90s. So we had a muscle conditioning.
Scar tissue.
Yeah. And so we were ready. Now, there were silver linings of this experience, because all our other great leaders that are younger hadn't experienced anything like that. And wow, what an experience to work 24/7 side by side to make it through.
They learned the value of resilience.
They learned what resilience is about. And resilience is key in entrepreneurship. Something that sometimes you can't teach in a textbook. You know.
Yeah, you have to get the shit kicked out of you to know what it feels like to get the shit kicked out of you.
Exactly.
We see all these kids, because we're in New Haven, we mentor or advise or consult for a lot of kids out of Yale. And obviously these brilliant guys and gals. And I can't tell you how many of these entrepreneurs we've seen cry because they're not resilient.
Yeah. I'll take a community college kid over an Ivy League kid any day of the week.
A street drug dealer over any one of those people, because they are the ones that go to jail, the ones that are street kids, street people. They're the ones that are the most resilient, because they've seen the bottom
And they know how to bounce back.
and they know how to bounce back, and they have the thick skin and the stick-to-itiveness that you need versus, unfortunately, the more silver spoon they are, the more hand-fed they are, I
would say privilege prevents progress.
Yeah. Smart.
I just want to touch on one thing you asked about going through that time and people helping people. 3 weeks prior to the pandemic, we moved into these new offices with 250 people ready to go, and we had to shut down. There were a handful of people coming to the office in the very beginning. And our movers, our moving company that just moved us only 3 blocks away from our former headquarters on Lewis Street to the Gold Building, had a bill that we had owed for the move. It was $40,000. It wasn't even due yet. I don't even think we saw the bill. He sent me a text. And he said, you've been so good to us all these years, to us and the community. I'm waiving the $40,000 bill because of what LAZ is going through right now.
Wow.
And
That's partnership.
that's partnership. And our landlords that are our friends, they're like, we'll tack on this lease to the back end. Don't worry. We're working with our banks. We'll work with you. So we fought through the pandemic doing much better than we thought we would do. And the fact that we had no debt during that time period really was extremely helpful. And, I think, when you talk about entrepreneurship, you have to also talk about financing and leverage and make sure that you don't get over leveraged in situations. And I think,
What does leverage mean? And I want to understand that concept, because I think a lot of people talk about leverage. Like, we'll Google it. But when you say that word, what does that mean for just for the audience?
What percentage of debt do you have towards your earnings? You know, a lot of people will say, what is an acceptable debt level to EBITDA? So if you have, let's say you make $1 million of EBITDA, okay, you probably shouldn't have more than 3 times debt to EBITDA ratio. There are private equity firms that leverage up 5, 6, 7 times. You know, we had 0. Okay, that helped us get through that. So making sure that you have the right financial stability behind you, the right equity invested in deals, I think is very important for entrepreneurs to think through as well.
How do you get so smart in business? You didn't graduate college. Your grandfather sold lumber. I'm assuming he was a smart guy, but probably not knowing 3X, 5X, 7X lever and stuff like that. A lot of people I meet don't have the skill set, the knowledge. They're first-time founders. They have no finance skills. What has been your path to education?
Yeah. Along the way, you know, you learn by doing. You learn by smart people around you. I love having great leaders that are smarter than myself. And I have that all around me. And you learn by doing. Along the way, I did attend Harvard to get a real estate degree and courses in special programs. You know, so you learn by taking classes. You learn from other people. You learn from great professionals, great accountants, great lawyers. You learn by doing. And you know, I think you can never stop learning. You know, my dad's 93 years old. He has the office right next to me. He's now writing his 15th book, and he's lecturing and teaching. You know, we just came out of the Jewish holidays, and he did a wonderful sermon on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And
he's still the chaplain
He's the chaplain of the state senate for the state of Connecticut. He's chaplained the Hartford healthcare system. He used to be the chaplain of the Hartford police, and, you know, just amazing community leader.
So I've known you now for a couple of years. One of the things that you taught me, and I'm very happy that you did so, is to lead with love, which I didn't hear in your value system when you ran through all the values. I didn't hear lead with love. You know, you said that to me over and over because, you know, I can get a little hot.
A little bit.
He knows more than you, believe me.
Okay.
You know I can get a little hot, but I love that, right? And I've been incorporating that into my life more, with my family, with my kids, and with my partner, with my colleagues.
I'd like to see more of that, audience. Can we see more of Cool Hand Dave, not Hot Head Dave?
Yeah.
Listen, it's happening. I'm sure you've noticed. I can pivot. I can pivot really quick. It's part of our value system, right?
I could address that.
Yeah.
You know what?
Because you could have so much hate in your heart from what happened to you, and what happened to your
You know what? First of all, that comes from my dad. You know, he could have hate in his heart. You know,
But he chose love.
But he chose love and forgiveness. Okay? Listen, if we want to look at anyone, we're all imperfect. If you want to find fault in anyone, you can. It's better to look at the good in people. You know, the last time my father saw his mother, I don't know if I've told you this story before, he got pushed out of the second story of a movie theater when they were all getting killed, and his mother was there with 2 brothers and a sister, and his father and 1 brother were already in the woods, and she said to him, "I want you to live. The world's going to someday need you. I'm pushing you out of the second story of this theater, and you're going to go into the woods." He was 12 at the time. "You're going to go into the woods, and you're going to go find your father and brother, and never forget to tell the world what's happened to us." Another mother saw what was happening, and she threw her 8-year-old son out the window. His name was Abe Goldstein. My father had never met him before, but he took him with him and he saved his life. While the two boys fell in the tall grass in this movie theater, there was a German soldier with his machine gun on the corner that looked at my father, looked at his mother in the window, and turned the other way.
Wow. I never heard that.
So we all have choices. We can choose good. We can lead with love. We can believe in forgiveness.
Wow, it's heavy.
Yeah. It is. No, you're right. You are.
And, we hug everyone. You know that.
Yeah.
That's
even Ryan, who's uncomfortable.
Yeah, but,
I want to see that one.
that's the LAZ way. We lead with love and we lead with hugs and we believe in embracing people. And, you get a smile, you get a laugh, you make people feel good and good things happen.
Yeah.
I love that.
When I met you and you told me when I met you and you told me the story, I remember getting the chills. Every time you've said the story in front of me or any part of your stories, I get the chills. And every time I've repeated your story to people about you, I get the chills and the people get the chills. It's made for TV. It's made for the big screen. When's the movie coming out? Because I know people are going to want to know.
Well, I will tell you, it's been a lifelong dream. One of the things I haven't accomplished yet, but we're on the brink because we have a company named Film Nation in California, very interested in doing this with us. We have, right before the writer's strike, we were lining up writers and directors. And now that the strike is over, we're back, we're going full force in that mode.
Okay.
So we're really excited about making my parents' story into a feature film. There's been 2 books written. My father's first book was called Faith and Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom's book that was written by a wonderful New York Times bestseller author, Rebecca Frankel, is called Into the Forest. Yeah. And those books and my parents' story were highlighted in People magazine, and there were millions and millions of people that have viewed it and read about it. Mm-hmm. So we're really excited about doing this because, when we can teach others and inspire others to do good and to believe that anything's possible in life, it's a gift. And bringing our humanity to the moment at this time is more important than ever.
Yeah, yeah.
Dave says this a lot. The answer is always no unless you ask. So I'm going to ask this question and it's being recorded. So when the premiere happens for this film that is undoubtedly going to get made and be prolific, can I get a ticket to the premiere to come see this?
If David includes you as his plus one, you're in.
My wife, I might have to fight that out with his wife.
So I want to get back to business for a second. I have a very specific question. You talked about partners. You talked about good people. You talked about believing in people. One time you said to me, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but you said if we judge people on their worst day, we'd have no friends. See, I remember everything you say. But there are a lot of bad people out there. There are a lot of people that are not like you, that don't lead with love, that have to win at the detriment of others, partners, business people, real estate people. Do you avoid them, or do you steer into the skid? Like, what is your methodology of when you have to deal with somebody that is that may not be the most savory of humans?
Yeah. First of all, you have to believe in the premise that most people are good, and want to do the right thing. Now, I never want to change the way we are. We're open, we're giving, and we believe in people. Now, unfortunately, sometimes when you're that open, you become vulnerable, and you could get taken advantage of, and that has happened. But I will say, the number of times that has happened compared to the flip side of that, of all these amazing relationships. Listen, you came to me because our great mayor of Hartford, Luke Bronins, connected us because you wanted to do a cannabis deal in Hartford. Mm-hmm. I met you. I fell in love with you. I embraced you. Why? Because of his spirit, because of the way I felt, because of his passion, because of his commitment, because of just the feeling you get when you meet David. And as you know, we had another dear friend, that Janice Fleming, that with the social equity license can change her life. So that was very important to both of us. And so we had a commonality, that we connected on. And I think when you could connect with people and have a commonality and do good, be a force for good, great things can happen. You cannot do it alone. You need partnership. You need relationships. A company is not built on one person. You need to collaborate.
So I want to talk about passion for a second. So first thing I want to do is I want to bring a little bit of passion out of you. So I remember there's a moment where you're looking up at this great gold building that we're sitting in today, and that gold building wasn't always your building, right? What did it feel like when you got to make that purchase and that building became yours? I want to unpack that feeling, and then I want to take us down a different journey here.
It was sentimental in a way to know that one of my mentors developed this building, built this building, and many years later we were able to buy it. But those are material things. The things that get me more passionate are seeing the parking attendant become the manager, become the supervisor, become a partner in LAZ. And what I'm passionate about is people, and the fact that we have 65 men and women at LAZ throughout the country that started as attendants or started at a different place and are now owners and partners at LAZ. And those are the things that, really get me and my partners really excited. Winning deals are great. We win 7 new locations a week in our system. We're the fastest growing parking company in the nation. We have the highest retention rate out of any parking company in the nation. So we have great material deals that we're winning. But the passion comes from success of others and seeing people become successful.
I want to ask you 2 quick questions, rapid fire. So first, do you like to win or do you hate to lose?
I love to win, but if we lose, you can't be a poor sport. You just got to say we're going to get it next time.
Okay.
So I don't hate to lose. It's maybe not right now. But it's going to happen.
Understood. So before you came in today, obviously your schedule is super busy. So thank you again for taking the time for us and for the audience. So they're going to get so much value from this now and in the future. We were talking to some employees of yours here. And the one thing that showed up was just your ability to extract passion from people. A lot of times you ask someone, what they're passionate about. If you ask it in that way, they might not know the answer. They might be sort of befuddled by it. You have a knack, and I heard this from multiple people on your team as I was walking through your halls here, that you're able to find the passion in someone, harness it, and then even design jobs for them that weren't previously in their path. As a leader, I believe it's our job, it's our responsibility to find things in others that they can't see themselves. Can you just walk us through your process of how does Al find passion in people and unlock it? What are some of the ways to do that?
Well, first thing I would say is, I've been blessed to be partners for the last 43 years with my childhood best friends. Just imagine your, friends in high school, in junior high school, college, and now you're partners in business with these people for a lifetime. And to have the same spirit and to have the same DNA, to believe in people and say, how do we find people's passion? I think where we excelled, maybe to start wasn't in understanding the multiple on EBITDA and numbers. We excelled by understanding people, by reading people, by working with people, by helping people. And when you make people part of your team and people know that, we have your back. In our business, the person on the street is more important than the CEO. Why? They're the front face of your company. Okay? They're providing the service. They're flagging the cars in. They're giving the good name and reputation. So when we, it's the reverse pyramid. It's servant leadership. And again, when we say you're only as good as the people you have working with you, it's the front line. During COVID, do you know people were essential service? How about all the people working at hospitals to provide that service? The letters and support that I got from hospital administrators, from patients, of the care that LAZ people provided during that time frame is unfathomable. And so the passion really has to come from servant leadership and from people.
I think it's the language we use too. I want to be really clear with the audience. Notice every time he references people we work with, it's not the people that work for LAZ, it's the people we work with. It's the servant leadership, it's the conscious capitalism. I hope you're hearing here, folks, because these are the things, it's the language we use, right? Language of love in so many cases. People want to feel heard, seen, and loved, and clearly you know how to do that. So you're working with someone young, they're on the team, your executives, your leaders, and you might spot that they maybe don't have that sense of passion in the role that they're in. And I know you've been known to build multiple new businesses. I know you've got a studio now, many new things. How do you unlock that passion in someone to go and create that? Because we heard one of those stories off camera today, and I'd love for you to maybe tell that. Is what are some examples of some times you saw someone and you just walk us through that journey of extracting that passion and then doing something with it? Because it's beautiful moments. I want the audience to be able to hear it and see it.
I often think about the tens of thousands of people that worked at LAZ in their careers. I happen to be sitting next to Michael Harth, one of my best friends and partners, and we were at our other best friend's son's wedding, and I said, I posed this. He's our chief culture officer as well, and president of the Western region. That actually he just passed the baton down as president of the Western region to a wonderful leader named John Svenblatt. But I asked Michael, I said, think about all the people that have worked with us, that we've made a difference. They're still with us, but think about all the people that started with us and, maybe got a little bit of the LAZ love, but went on to do other great things. And I said that because the person that was sitting next to us was a gentleman named Andy Horowitz, who actually used to work as a valet parker for Michael while he was going to UCSD, and is one of the great healthcare equity entrepreneurs in the country. Wow. And he was sitting right next to us. And I would love to get an alumni of all the people that have worked at LAZ. Yeah. So we believe in people achieving their dreams. And it could be hopefully within LAZ, or it could be, yeah. And, it's a beautiful thing.
I love that.
So we've taken up a lot of your time, but if we didn't move into progress and pivots, then we wouldn't have done our job here. We talked about COVID hitting and almost decimating your company and the revival, the progress that you've seen since then. And I started to talk about the fact that most people would see parking as a boring business. But as you've reinvented yourself from the ashes of COVID, or the almost ashes of COVID, you're now taking and growing LAZ Parking into even bigger, better company. Tell us about those pivots and that progress that you're seeing so far. What's happening?
Well, I mentioned earlier, there's always silver linings. And the silver lining of COVID is you had to think different. You had to reinvent yourself. You had to do different things. And we, as a management team, we all learned how to do different things. But we also, during COVID, our LAZ locations turned into testing sites, as an example. We did more testing of people, drive-through testing, than anyone in the country, I believe, at our LAZ locations. So we found other ways to create revenue. And we also now look at our locations. I mean, we have about 3,600 locations and 1.5 million parking spaces, which is about 450 million square feet of space. And when you think about this space is located in cities in the best distributed real estate network in the United States. So the question is, besides traditional parking, what else can we do in that parking space to create value? Because we're mostly a management company for our landlords, and we have to make sure that we're always on top of creating value. Technology, we've been at the forefront of technology, so we're the leaders in the parking industry in terms of technology, and we're through license plate recognition. We were also the first to put parking access revenue control in the cloud and seamless parking transactions, digitizing transactions. We're really excited about the future of technology. We're also looking at electric charging. So the gas station of the future for electric vehicles in cities is the parking lot and the garage. So we're now working on a plan to put 100,000 charging stations in our garages nationwide. And we're working with great partners throughout the country to do that. And so we're really excited about the future of electrification. We're really excited about what we call the LAZ mile, LAZ mile, which is last mile delivery, because we have the hub and spoke model of a mobility hub for packages and delivery and working on decarbonizing cities. Do you know that all these congestion that happens in these cities is avoidable by doing electric bikes and walker programs for last block, same day delivery, and using our garages as hubs for that. Mm-hmm. So we're working with partners along those lines as well. So, we have talking to vertiport companies on top of rooftops and drone delivery and agricultural things being built on our lots. And so people are coming to us with pickleball court ideas. And, so we're open. I think you have to be open to new ideas and open to innovation. And we have a whole department at LAZ that focuses on partnerships, innovation. We're doing car sharing. We'll be doing mobility hubs. There's a lot of exciting things that we're really passionate about for the future of parking. And again, there are so many amazing entrepreneurs that, there's new technologies, and we also are investing in a mobility venture studio right here in Hartford at LAZ headquarters, where we can pilot and help entrepreneurs with their ideas. Because if we can put those ideas into action and we believe in that technology or we believe in that idea and we could use it at LAZ, then the whole industry can use it. And so I think it's very important to collaborate with others to figure out the best ideas that are out there.
I love that. I think that what I'm hearing, it might even be a good place for us to wrap up, just given how much of your precious time you've given us today, is when you keep your hearts open, when you keep your minds open, the possibilities are open as well.
Possibilities are endless.
He always says, he's got the best line. He says, let's not talk capabilities, let's talk possibilities.
Let's talk possibilities. I love it.
Awesome.
And never, ever give up.
Never, ever give up.
Alan Lazowski, you are
the definition of forward obsessed.
You are the definition of forward obsessed. Your father is definition of forward obsessed too. I'm pleased to have met him in my lifetime. I am pleased to have you as a friend, as a mentor, and more importantly, I'm so glad that we get to share you with our guests today, and we can't thank you enough.
Well, this has been a gift for me. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Forward Obsessed. Please share this episode, subscribe, and leave a review on your podcast app. This episode was hosted by Pete Senna and David Salinas from the Digital Surgeons Podcast Studio in New Haven, Connecticut. Special thanks to our AV crew, Steve Walter and Meg Olson. Forward Obsessed is produced by Robert Roach. If you'd like to contact our team, visit us at forwardobsessed.com.